What's going on, world? Once again, it's Mr. Derek Dunn, bringing you another lively interview session with another R&B artist. Today's guest is Mr. Darian Dean of My Mouth Music. So everyone, please welcome Mr. Dean to the line. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, brother. How you feeling?
Blessed, man. I can't complain. The sun is shining. I'm waking up every day. So from my vantage point, all is well.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and get, knock this out, give the public a chance to know some more about you. I can promise, man, none of the questions are too personal. It's just maybe number 13 might throw you a little bit, but we'll see when we get to that question.
Cool.
So when did you get your start in music, and who were some of your early influences?
I've always leaned into music. I grew up. I spent half of my childhood in Jamaica with my family in Jamaica, and then the other half, obviously, in the U.S. And I leaned heavily into some reggae when I was younger. So artists like Bob Marley, of course, with their songwriting skills and stuff, were things I leaned into. And then on the side here, once I got into the States, it was more like Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, and then obviously like a walk into hip-hop. Hip-hop was heavily influenced me as a child. I actually started off as a choreographer, so I was dancing before I was really singing. And hip-hop and, Michael Jackson and things like that, those were all things that kind of like tempted me and brought me into the music world. And then I just started to develop a voice outside of that, after getting into the choreography.
Speaking of hip-hop, what was the first classic hip-hop album you can remember hearing in its entirety?
I'll probably date myself here. I got to think about it. Probably was like a Run DMC record. If the first one I probably appreciated was probably De La Soul. I think 3 Feet High and Rising was probably the first record that I can say like I appreciated from an artist standpoint. But Run DMC probably was probably like one of the earliest records that I can remember hearing and being like, yo, what is this? Like this is talking directly to me. Like, what is this? So.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to turn 39. So, growing up, hip hop, you listen to it, as a kid, and it was on the TV and it was, on the radio, but as far as like having an actual album like by itself from start to finish, I think the first one that I actually remember owning was probably Vanilla Ice's and Hammers. That was just, because everybody had it because it was nice and clean. But the first one I listened to finish was Snoop Dogg, Doggystyle in '93 at age 12.
Yes, indeed.
So, yeah, I think Doggystyle was the first one I actually remember buying and actually taking it in and reading the album credits and actually absorbing it. And my mom and I actually, we were driving across country from Alabama to VA because we were moving up here, and I put the Doggies in the cassette deck in my mom's 86 Honda Accord, and she let me listen to it the entire way through, but whew, yeah, her reaction.
Oh, your mom's progressive, yo. Your mom's a progressive, let you hear that all the way through. Okay. My mom's would absorb you a new one for that.
Yeah, good times, though. So let's take a trip back to your debut, If These Walls Could Talk. How did you end up getting signed?
Well, I've never actually been signed to a label. I've done distribution deals all around the world, like whether it's in Europe or in Asia. I've done those kind of things. But I've always been an independent operation. So If These Walls Could Talk, I worked with my partner at the time, Miles Anthony, and we basically decided we were going to put out a record that would have the same sensibilities and the same production values as a major label release, but do it ourselves. I did a lot of work in learning how to engineer records and basically just studied the craft of building a record without having the label. And we just kind of like put it together, like Lego blocks, just started snapping stuff together in order to make that happen. It was a lot of learning involved. And it was a lot of, you break some things, you fix some other things, but I learned a lot in doing the album, from not even just an artistic standpoint from being a songwriter, but also from being a label owner and from, having to deal with, even things that I'd never dealt with, shipments overseas. I mean, at that point, we were moving a lot more physical copies than you do now. Like, obviously, now it's more of a streaming business, but at that time, we were fielding orders all over the world. So, yeah, that there was not a label per se, but we were the label, and that's how. And to this day, that's how it works. I mean, even my current situation, I work in conjunction with other people around the world. I work with IH Records in Paris. I work with some distribution in Japan, but My Mouth Music is a product of my mouth. So, that's me.
Respect, man. Respect for keeping the music quality and, I guess, not conforming to the label politics and altering your sound just to, get a stream or, be known, on the top 100 or whatever. So respect for that, man. I love indie artists that are out here staying true to themselves and not trying to cater to a certain fan base. So you have my respect for, staying true to your sound. So two of my favorite songs from the debut were Love Revolution and Seasons. What was the inspiration behind those records?
Well, Love Revolution at the time was, and at this current time, it's funny, Love Revolution is an interesting record because it's one of the few songs from that record that I still play every single set to this day. Like, I mean, it makes it to every single set. And I remember thinking of songs like, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, and message music that still had, it didn't beat you over the head with the message per se, and it kept the, I guess, the hip elements of it. Like Love Revolution has some hip-hop elements. My brother Quantum Leap is on that. He's an MC that's on that as well. One of the only features on that entire record, actually. And I just wanted to put some work out there that felt essential. It's kind of like My Love's in Need via Stevie Wonder, but through a different lens, my own lens, and basically saying we need to take action, because I think that we can talk all we want, but without action, there's no movement. So that was kind of like the impetus for Love Revolution. Seasons was based on a breakup, actually, and just thinking about, like, when we come out of these things, there's a saying that, people come into your life for seasons, reasons, and a lifetime. And it was kind of like a take on just the first portion of that and how the seasons will change. And, they change for a reason. I mean, you can't have, it'd be nice to have so much 12 months for me, but I understand the need for rain and I understand the need for these other things, because that's just basically the cycle of life. So that's where Seasons came from. And it was a late add to the record, actually. It's funny because it wasn't something that was meant to be on the record. And just was something that I kind of, at the last minute, had a feel for, built it up, and then made sure it had an inclusion because it was part of my story.
Anthony Hamilton and Charlie Wilson both approached you and asked to buy the rights to Composer for a cover version. Who would you give the song to first?
Well, I mean, Charlie Wilson is a GOAT. I mean, they're both GOATs, but Charlie Wilson, it's interesting. It depends. It's an interesting question, because if I listen to who could manage the song better, I mean, either one of them are phenomenal singers. But if I was to go, like, who do I think could kind of make it a hit again, or make it a hit, I might have a different answer. But my answer off shot from what you first said will probably be just Charlie Wilson, just because I'd want to have conversation with him. I'd want to have a connection to Charlie Wilson so I could talk to him about everything, about the craft. I saw him. I was on a cruise with him, Capital Jazz Cruise. We were performing on the same cruise, and to see this man perform in his 60s, and his show is tighter than most people that I've ever seen in my life. The conversation, so it's like it's a selfish answer. The conversations that could jump off from a Charlie Wilson collabo would probably be one of the main reasons I'd be like Charlie. I'd go with Charlie.
Oh no, man, you're definitely right. I saw Charlie in DC. I think it was 2014 or 2015, where it was him, Kim, and Joe. I mean, that was an awesome show all around. But you're right, though, for Charlie to be as old as he is, no disrespect, and to get out there and just kill it for like 2.5 hours, and
yeah, bro,
you don't see him breaking a sweat. He's out there dancing, two-stepping, popping and locking.
Changing outfit. Yeah, all of it. All of it. Amazing.
And the way that he, for me, again, like, I don't really have any musical talent per se, but I can just read the cues, and just the way that Charlie's able to be in sync with his band is something to see. Like, it's effortless.
Yeah, this is a master craftsman right there. So definitely, man, to see that stuff, it's very inspiring to watch his show. And I think one of the things that we do, unfortunately, with our black artists is we write them off very early. I remember the other day somebody did something. They were talking about Usher versus somebody else, and they were like, "Well, Usher's old," and I was like, "Usher's old?" Like, I mean, I guess it was in relations to like maybe Chris Brown or something like that. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to make this a color thing, but it's a fact. White artists, they don't really do that. They don't be like, this person's really old, because if that was the case, I mean, they got Rolling Stones, all these other people that have illustrious careers until the time they pass, versus what we do. So to me, it's like when you see somebody like Charlie Wilson, it's a testament to, you shouldn't write these people off. That they're, first of all, they're the masters of the genre, one, and two, just because they got a little bit older doesn't mean he's not missing a step, and vocally he will burn down 90% of the people in the game. So anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent, but that's my little soapbox when it goes to that.
I'm gonna I'm gonna add the same. I'm gonna piggyback off what you said. So it's not really a tangent, because other artists that I've interviewed, they say the same thing, that it's a shame that we in the black community are quick to write off our elders, and these guys are still out here killing the game, and no other genre of music and no other ethnicity, honestly, no one else does that. Because, me being a music head, a deep music head, I'm always posting stuff about, who I'm going to see for a show. So I can say that I'm going to see somebody like the Whispers or the Manhattans or the Simps, and some of my friends would be like, "Man, why are you going to see them, those wash-ups?" I'm like, they're not washed up. Like, I have no desire to see a Party Next Door, The Weeknd. I mean, they're okay artists, but I have no desire to go and see them live. And some of these older artists, they have songs that are better than some of these newer cats' catalogs. I'm not going to say no names, but it's a fact that artists like Charlie, artists like Usher, they have albums they can tour off of for the rest of their life and be good. I mean, it's 2020 right now, and I can name numerous artists who 20 years ago that were hot 20 years ago, but they couldn't go inside a stadium or, an arena right now off an album. Usher can tour off Confessions till he's in his 60s. Just, no question. Yeah, man, it's like, and I don't know why that is. I don't know why we as a community, we don't give folks their flowers when they're here. Like you were saying, the Rolling Stones, Chicago, the Grateful Dead, I mean, whoever you want to say can go out here, be in their 70s, still sell at a venue and get their flowers. But the minute somebody who was not on the radio or hasn't done anything new like in 20-plus years says they're coming back out, we want to clown them. That's a shame to see. But, no tangent at all. Respect. You're not the first person to say that I've interviewed. So, respect for being honest and putting that out there. So, your song Nowhere was featured on Oscar winner Matthew Cherry's directorial debut the last fall. Did Matthew show you a clip or give you a script to read for the song's inspiration?
No, that song was actually already completed, and it was interesting because it ended up being in for a really seminal part of the flick. It's like kind of a climax kind of scene. And interestingly enough, I wrote Nowhere about the passing of my grandmother, and it was just an emotional piece for me in general. And it was just something that he listened to my material, and it locked in with him, and I guess locked in with the music, the people that were scouting for music. And, thankfully it became a part of that film, and a really great part of that film, actually. And it took a bit of a different slant in, when I watched it with the visuals behind it. Obviously, I have my own thoughts about the song because the source material and why I wrote it. But when I saw it with that, it was very interesting to see it now fitting with a different bit of scenery and how well it fit as well. So I was really thankful for that.
Yeah, dope movie too.
Yeah,
and I'm
sure.
happy that
Definitely
got his Oscar for Hair Love. But The Last Fall should have, really opened up some more doors for him. But as they say, good things come to those who wait.
Yes, indeed.
How was it working with Avery Sunshine on the song "Someone Is You" from your Detours album?
Oh man, Avery's amazing. We didn't actually cut that in the studio together. It was one of those things. She was touring a bit, I was touring a bit, but the way that song came about, sometimes what I will do is I will write with the aspiration that I'm going to get somebody on a song. So I'll be like, I'm going to write this in the voice of this person, and I'm going to just pray on it, and I'm going to just move on it. And I wrote that song with Avery in mind, and before she even heard it. And basically, I said, hey, I wrote this song. I had seen her several times on the scene. We performed at various venues together, but not in the same, on the same set, obviously. And I said, I wrote this song. I would love it if you would voice it. I hope you enjoy it. What do you think? And I sent it to her, and instantly she locked with it. She said she loved it. And, we had a little bit of running back and forth to try and make it happen because of scheduling. But when it finally came, it was just perfect, man. And it was like such a great record to be able to bring out for that, because basically since If These Walls Could Talk, I took some time to kind of live, revisit my voice, revisit my writer's pen, and try and figure out what my angle was going to be because the industry had changed so much. So to get to come out with the beginning of the trilogy on Departures with, Someone Is You was really, really a great starting point as far as having a feature, somebody who was known as well, somebody who I really respected. And, the song did really well. I was thankful for that as well. People received it just as well as she did. So that was great.
Speaking of Someone Is You, why did you add Sean's Revenge to the remix of this song, track number 8?
Because Sean Hibbler he's a bad boy, man. It's funny, when I told him about the original Someone Is You, we go back and forth on production quite a bit. Shout out to Sean Hibbler, such an amazing producer. And I said to him, it started off as there was a Japanese label that told me they wanted some remixes in order to make oftentimes Japanese distribution will ask you for different cuts so that they can have like a different product out there. So I said, all right, well, let me look into this. And I said to Sean, I said, hey, what do you think you can do with Someone Is You? Do you got any ideas? And literally, I think like maybe 2 days later, he came up with the version he did. And, it has different throwback kind of vibes to, Never Too Much and things like that. And honestly, it's funny, that version ended up becoming more popular than the original. I think maybe just because it has more of a dance appeal on the dance floor, and people can vibe with it on what it makes them feel like. There's some things they reminisce on. So yeah, that was pretty much how it started off, though. Basically, almost like as a challenge from the Japanese distributor.
Cool. I thought it was another story behind that. I don't know. It was an actual challenge thing. Like you were talking the song, maybe there was like a third party involved in something, so I had to ask that question.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like for me, any choices that I make, they're generally going to be like, if he would have come with something and I wasn't feeling it, wasn't going to be like, I don't do album fillers, so it wasn't anything like that. But when he came with that version, I was just so like, oh, okay, all right, let's go with it, let's rock with it. So yeah, it was one of those things, sometimes things happen and it's kismet, and that was kind of one of those situations.
Cool. I'm gonna go off track real quick. So was that the same motivation with Straight Up, the Root session featuring Omar on the Detours album?
No, not at all. Actually, yeah, no, not at all. So I had done some music with a good friend of mine, DJ Hallex. We'd done songs called Feeling. We did another one called Bring Back the Sun, and he'd done songs with Omar as well, a bunch of songs with Omar. So I was in Paris one day, and I had this idea. I got kind of lost, actually, when I went for a run. And I have a story. I have a series called Backstory. So if anybody wants to check any deeper on the backstory for Straight Up, they can check that out. But basically what happened was I was out for a run. Now that I had this connection with Omar, I started thinking I want to write, once again, try to write in the voice of someone like Omar to get something to him. And I went for a run, and I got lost, and my phone was dead. And I had this bass line in my head. So I was like, man, I want to make sure I remember this bass line. And then the words started coming to me, and I'm about a mile away from my boy's flat where I was staying, Eastman Hill, shout out to him. So I ran home screaming loud in the streets. I'm screaming like, this is Africa straight up. And people probably look at me like I'm crazy, like the one black dude in this area of suburban Paris or whatever, outside Paris, running around screaming, this is Africa. And then I get home. So when I got to the flat, Isma and I worked out the chords for Straight Up, and we worked out some of the basics. But the original version that I ended up doing was I did it with Hallex. We did like a house version, and we pitched that to Omar, and Omar did that. But I always wanted to do more of a roots session version. And Isma knew a drummer out of North Africa, and he had some great ideas for guitar parts that he laid and some different things. So the roots version was kind of truer to what I imagined anyway. That's why that version went on my record versus the original, which is more of a house record. Which is out on DJ Halleck's thing. So yeah, it was more of that situation there.
Cool. So staying with the Detours album, what was the motivation to entitle the second part of the trilogy Detours?
Well, this trilogy is interesting for me. Departures, I always look at it like this. When you leave someplace, like let's say I'm leaving New York. I'm familiar with New York, but I know I'm going somewhere new based on the fact that I'm at an airport, based on the fact that my bags are packed, based on the fact that, it's a plan. So Departures was for people who haven't heard me in a while, since If These Walls Could Talk maybe or something, and there were definitively records on there that people may relate to and say, I remember this dude. Yeah, I remember him. This is the vibe I know him to do. Like songs like Pieces and Harmless were on there, and those songs, I don't think they're a grand departure, to use that word again, from If These Walls Could Talk in my writing style or styles. Detours, on the other hand, is now we're up in the air. Now we've taken off from where we've departed, and now we're going to a place that you don't know me for. You don't know me for Afrobeat. You don't know me for big band records like Best Is Yet. You don't necessarily know me for two-step records like Last Song. You don't know me for a straight jazz standard like You're the One. So that record, I knew definitively had multiple styles on it, which is also something that most artists don't put out. Usually you put something out, and because it's an album form, you want it to be cohesive. But the cohesiveness of my records is my writing style. I think most people that would look at what I do would say, this voice sounds familiar, even though these songs sound different. So yes, Straight Up has a very different sound than Last Song, but the writing should feel similar. The song structure, the choices, they're still my choices. So Detours was a way for me to do a whole bunch of different style of records, like many different styles, but yet still put out one project and let people know that I have other influences, even like Autopilot. Autopilot's got like a vibe and a throw to some of like Computer Love stuff like Zap with the voice box, shout out to O-Dog on the voice box, on the talk box, sorry. So that really was what it was. Detours is like the middle part of the trilogy where I let loose a little bit, and you see like, oh, this dude has been studying. He's been studying different forms of music, and he's incorporating them into his palette, just like To the More. To the More has hip hop inspirations and even some trap. There's a little bit of trap vibes, but not the way people do trap. I'm not really a super fan of that. So it was like, how do I take elements of that and then incorporate it into what I do?
Yeah, and I'm gonna you're giving me so much knowledge and so many jewels. So I'm gonna go off track really quick, just with the whole trap thing.
Mm-hmm.
I respect what you said, how you're saying you're doing trap, but it's not how like the normal trap sounds. And for me as a consumer, thank you for adapting to what's current, but also staying true to yourself. Because too often you find R&B artists, especially male singers, they want to chase what's hot and what's current, and they go too far left from their sound. And you're a prime example of staying true to your sound while also catering to maybe, a new fan base, a new market, but you don't go so far left that you lose or alienate your original fans. And I think too many artists, do that in the modern age. So, yeah, thank you for, not...
No, I appreciate you saying that. I think the main key to it is there's two things. One, I don't think you should ever really cater to anybody. So that's one. But I think the other thing is we have two lanes that we'll take. So I think sometimes artists get locked into there's no great music after the 70s, so I'm only going to make music that sounds like 1970s. That's not true. So that's not a real thing. And, I mean, if you choose, if there's no music you like past the 70s, that's one thing. But to be like there's nothing new, there were synthesizers that were introduced in the 80s and even the 90s that were instrumental to making some really amazing music, so we can't ignore these things. But what we can do is I think you can listen to something and be like, you know what, I like this part of that, but I don't necessarily like that sound, but I can respect this piece. What would that be like if we were to deal with it in colors? If I say, oh, you know what, this is a color that I don't have in my box. What if I took that color? I don't use only that color, but I take a piece of that and I see what does it look like here. First off, I think to experiment as an artist, especially an independent artist, where you have the leeway to do so because there's nobody telling you what you have to do. There's no better time to do it. I mean, you know what I mean? You're an owner. You have to make choices, of course. You don't want to alienate your fans or whatever, but I think you do have to show growth. I know a lot of people like their artists for what they like them for, so they'll be like, well, I only want Maxwell to make, Pretty Wings kind of songs, or I only want this person. I think that's selfish on the fans' part, but it doesn't really much matter. It's about the artist and how they feel. If you feel like you're an artist that people love your ballads, but you want to try an up-tempo, you should. You should do it diligently. Obviously, you need to study and see what it is and maybe, help get people involved that can help you get that sound that you may not have. But I think the grand thing of it is always to be growing, always to be showing people that they don't know the bounds of your art. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm very sure my next record and the records that I do subsequently are going to be surprising people. That doesn't mean that everyone will love them. Just like, Detours was an interesting record. It was the scariest record I ever put out because I remember when I put it together, I said, this is going to be crazy to some people. Some people are going to be like, I don't understand how you have this record on the same record with this one. And I was like, you know what? This is just something that I have to do. This is what I feel. And it ended up being my most successful record. It was Billboard charted, which versus the other ones, which were maybe safer albums. I think all too many times as artists, we're too safe. And there's no need to be. I mean, art, that's the whole thing about art. Art should be bold. So that's why in something like A To The More, I didn't want to shy away from something just because innately I'm not a huge fan of the trap sound. I was like, I'm not a fan of it because I think some of the musicality is lost in it. But if you combine the musicality with some of the, some of the innovations, there's some innovations in there, you come up with something that can be interesting. So.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And when I interviewed Stokely, he was saying the same type of stuff. And even when seeing Dwell A live numerous times, the way Dwell A does his stage show, if you ever seen him live, he'll
Absolutely,
say like, well, I want to put on a trap beat. But how he does it though, it sounds so organic. It still has a little bit of trap, but it's just so organic and still like soulful without going, way far left. Because like, a Dwell A fan base is going to be totally different from a Future fan base. So,
right,
I mean,
absolutely.
respect.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so we're going to stay with the Detours album a little bit more. I love the concept for the video, Last Song. Was the concept your idea, or was it the director's idea?
Nah, this was my idea from treatment to startup. It's funny because I have treatments for every single song on all my trilogies. I don't have the budget to put them all out, but I have treatments for all of them. And the getting this done. Well, I remember our first meeting with the director. Shout out to Ozzy Scott. I told him what I wanted to do, and getting a supermarket seemed like the hardest thing we could possibly do, because it was like, how are we going to get a supermarket? And luckily Tiffany reached into her bag and she was able to speak to someone, and we were afforded an amazing supermarket, and Mrs. Green, shout out to them for giving us that opportunity. But yeah, I always had this idea that it could be interesting to have these people in their separate lanes, you know what I mean, in literal lanes, and then we meet at the end where we've been working together the whole time, but we meet at the end, and that's the whole lock thing. And we also wanted it to be kind of fun with some dances and stuff. This is the first time Tiffany and I either one of us had worked with a choreographer and with some dancers. I started off as a choreographer, but that was years and years ago, and I've only ever done my own dancing. I never was really like, I guess basically the kind of stuff I was doing was like battle dancing and stuff. So it was an interesting experience even to have like little moments of like choreography and, link up with these dancers. So it was great. But seeing it come together was kind of like how a song comes together. Like I'll be writing something and I'm putting words together and stuff like that. So seeing it come together was great. And Ozzy had some really fantastic ideas that kind of brought it even to the next level, even further up. So that was great.
Have you found yourself revisiting any movies or television shows from your childhood during the COVID pandemic?
I wouldn't say I revisit anything. It's funny. I have this weird thing where I don't really watch anything more than once. I like the I don't want to say the shock, but I like the newness of things. There are very few movies that I watch more than once. The Five Heartbeats, Last Dragon, those are probably like two of the only flicks, and Aliens. Those are probably the only three flicks I think I've seen a number of times. So I don't really revisit. But I do find myself during different writing phases watching different styles of movies. Like I have watched maybe some rom-coms when I'm feeling in a vibe of something, singer-songwriter, or I've watched some dramas when I'm doing something that's a little bit darker. But during this time period, if I'm honest, I can't say I can't even say I have a specific television watching thing, man. Oftentimes the TV seems like it's watching me, so I don't even know.
Cool. If you could portray any artist in a biopic or a stage play, who would you pick?
Oof, I could portray that person. Oh man, that'd be real hard because I don't know who I would or could do justice to. Visually, probably somebody would say I need to do somebody like a DeBarge. They probably say do somebody a DeBarge person or something like that. I don't know if I could do justice to any one of the DeBarges. But yeah, I guess that'd be the only person that would come to mind. I would love to say I could do some like a Michael Jackson type of thing, but when I looked at no disrespect, but somebody shouted out the I forgot the movie that Flex was Michael Jackson in. I don't want comparisons like that. Yeah, I don't want no comparisons where they'd be like, "Fam, why did you do that?" So I leave the portrayals to other artists, to other people. I leave that for them. They can keep that part.
Minus the height with Sandy. No disrespect to the Nichols brothers. With your choreography background, you don't think you could pull off one of the Nichols brothers in a biopic?
Man, maybe 20 years ago or something like that. Yo, them definitely no disrespect. Let me tell you, this now. All right, I'll say it here first. I won't say exactly what it is, but I have a project that's coming up on my upcoming record, Destinations, that will have some intense choreography for myself. And it's funny that you mentioned Nicholas Brothers. I studied a little bit of that, studied a little bit of Fred Astaire. I was looking at different things when I'm building up what it is that I'm working towards. Man, the levels that people were at were just amazing. I mean, seriously mind-blowing. You know, there's reasons why, you know, Michael Jackson watched a lot of Fred Astaire and things like that when he was doing Moonwalker and all these other things. These people were geniuses, yo. Like, for real, for real. Same with the Nicholas brothers, man. The stuff that you see them do, I forgot that famous routine where they did it in one take. Man, and that's the one that everybody sees. They did it in one take. Like, the amount of blocking and just it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. So I definitely would not, no, they got that. That would be a massacre. And I'd probably end up real hurt. I'd probably hurt myself pretty bad trying to do that.
Oh, yeah. So, folks, if you've never seen the Nichols brothers, just YouTube some of their videos and see what they were doing. One of the brothers, Harold, he was the one that played Sarge in the Five Heartbeats. In
Five Heartbeats, absolutely, yep.
His little tap scene was maybe only about 10% of what he could actually do. So check out Harold Nichols on YouTube. You won't be disappointed.
Absolutely.
Shout out to my man Darian for shouting out Fred Astaire. Fred Astaire's another one that he gets his love from dance fanatics, but from the mainstream, that was a bad white boy. Fred Astaire.
Absolutely, man.
On fire with choreography.
Trust and believe. I mean, if you got somebody like Michael Jackson studying him, man, Michael Jackson studied the greats to become the great. I mean, that's how that works. You know, it wasn't by chance. And not only did he study them, he mimicked them. That's a whole different level of respect. To study someone is one thing, but to literally take the movements and to incorporate them into your art, that speaks volumes. So, yeah, definitely shout out to Fred Astaire, no doubt.
What do you consider 5 essential R&B albums?
Oh, okay. 5 essential R&B albums. Off the Wall, definitely. Songs of the Key to Life. Voodoo. Let me think. This one's probably a little bit for me. I can't remember the name of their duets album, but Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway's their duets album. I can't remember the name of it, and probably also Donny Hathaway's Live. I think is Live. I'd go between Donny Hathaway's Live and the Withers. I can't remember the name of that particular record. I don't remember. I'm hearing Grandma's Hand, but I don't think that's the name of the album. But it's on there. Yeah, I would lean into those. But those are records that probably have moved me as much as they have. You know, these are records that, I mean, I often talk about toolkits, you know, like your or like a starter kit. You know, these would be the starter kit for me. Like, you know, this is the foundational stuff that's in here, you know. So yeah, those would be mine.
Yeah, I always go back and forth because, you know, growing up in the 80s and the 90s and coming, you know, having parents that grew up, you know, before that, you know, I'm go back and forth. I think my top 5 are What's Going On, Marvin Gaye, Stevie, Songs in the Key of Life, Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, a tie between New Edition Heartbreak and Bobby Brown, Don't Be Cruel. And
yeah, that's strong. Yeah,
those
Don't
like
Be Cruel.
That I revisit the most.
Yeah, Don't Be Cruel. That's been getting a lot more shine lately because of the versus battles and some other things, man. That was an amazing album, like start to finish. Not many contemporary records are like that. So yeah, definitely super strong.
Yeah, even the outside of the singles, you know, the stuff that he was doing without, you know, Teddy and Babyface in L.A. Those 4 on side 2, the ballads on that joint was going on.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm a big New Edition fan, and I'll defend them to the T. And with Bobby, I mean, people always forget just how iconic that dude was, you know, when he was in his prime and had his run. And people always get on me when I tell them that, in my opinion, you know, no disrespect to Mike, but in my opinion, Don't Be Cruel is a better album than Bad, just as a complete project.
Oh yeah, yeah. No. I agree. That there's no disrespect with that. I don't think that isn't Michael's greatest work. I mean, he always has songs on any of his albums that are amazing songs. But if as a complete project, no, I would say Don't Be Cruel. Don't Be Cruel, first of all, had a very different attitude. That even though Bad had, I'm bad. My prerogative is for me personally, it's a stronger portrayal of somebody who's giving you attitude. I hate to say it. I mean, I'm bad as like on the nose. I'm hitting it on the nose. Yeah. But my prerogative, I was breaking down my prerogative the other day with somebody, all the reasons why, as a songwriter, that's such a strong song. First of all, you started with a word that people don't necessarily have either in their vocabulary or in their everyday vocabulary, which is a very similar strategy that I use with composure. Composure was basically kind of started on the vibe of like, this is a different word. A lot of times you say the same things, but you need to have a different angle. And then saying my prerogative, he could have said, I got an attitude. People hear the word attitude, but my prerogative makes you stop for a second and go, prerogative, okay. And then he defined it. He said, I'm gonna do what I want to do. That is a great song. so yeah, for me, I agree with you. I'm not that. I have no shame. Nobody can shame me for that. Definitely, that song and that album, I would give it over a Bad for sure.
Well, and that's why I enjoy talking to artists like yourself and other artists that I've interviewed. You guys actually come with facts and break it down. And people always say, "Man, you hating on Mike?" I'm like, "Mike, I'm not hating on Mike. I'm just saying from a complete album standpoint, it's a better album." Just like if you want to argue that, I've seen people argue with Prince. Prince fans say that the Love Sexy album, the album that's just one continuous track, is better than Sign of the Times. I'm like, well, I don't know about all that, but I get where you're going up because Love Sexy is just one straight 45-minute track that you have to listen to. It's not broken up, and that wasn't his intent. So artistically, what he pulled off, you got to respect.
Right.
But Sound of the Times, it was just an amazing album, all around.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep.
All right, so if you could form a supergroup comprised of yourself and 3 other artists, who would you select?
Ooh. Signed or unsigned?
Any 3
or is
from,
it just
any 3. Like Questlove on drums, Gene Gray as MC.
Man.
Like
that's almost too impossible if you're talking about musicians as well. I'm going to just do vocalists because if you're talking about musicians, that's a whole, man, so 3 other people in addition to myself. Definitely be Layla Hathaway, probably be one of my first picks. She would hold that whole section down. That'd be all her all day. D'Angelo, I'll go back with D'Angelo. And you said 3, right? Or including myself, that's 3. Hello, you there?
Oh,
hello.
My bad. Yeah, no, it's, I had it on mute. So it's yourself and 3 other artists.
Wait, myself and 2 other artists or 3?
3. So far you said yourself.
Oh, 3. Okay. Yeah, me, Layla Hathaway, D'Angelo, and man, who am I going to take on my 3rd?
Let's hit an MC.
Yeah, no, that's actually what I'm leaning into. I'm leaning either into. I think I take Mos Def, yo. I think I'm gonna take Mos Def. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, the joint is dope. He's another one that Mos is extremely talented. I still don't think we've seen the best of Mos Def yet. He has a lot more left to do music.
Yeah. Mos Def. See, Mos Def is a very interesting cat, and the reason I would choose him on the MC tip is, one, he's a ridiculous storyteller when given the right space to do so, but he also has amazing sensibilities as a singer. I mean, Umi Says is a fantastic song no matter who sings it. It's just a great song. It's just a really, really great song. Maybe I would have taken Black Thought though. Damn, I probably would. I don't know. It'd be a struggle. I might have taken Black Thought. I don't know why most came to hit my mind first, so I'm gonna stay with my pick. But Black Thought he's my pinnacle MC. He's my top MC, like done and done. So it'd been either one of them. But I'll stick with most. Because in my group, vocally, it would probably make more sense because he could do double duty. So I rock with him.
We'll give Black Thought a feature though on the remix.
Yeah, all day.
So the remix produced by DJ Premier featuring Black Thought with Questlove on the drums.
Done and done. Exactly. Done.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to add, and where can fans find you on social media?
I just want to say, big shout out to everybody, including yourself, for supporting independent artists. It's a very interesting time for us right now with what's going on in the world. It has already been an interesting time for independent artists trying to navigate between, streaming and everything else and trying to stay relevant with kind of limited resources. But now, especially with the way things are turning and, a lot of people's shows getting shut down and things like that, I want to thank people for still being supportive and tell people to be supportive. Support these artists that you dig, and hopefully when we're all able to get past this, we can all go out again and make sure you keep that love up and show up at shows or however that goes. And as far as for myself, you can reach me at DarianDeanMusic.com. That has links to my Instagram, my Facebook, everything. It has my YouTube channel. Everything's on there. DarianDeanMusic.com. That's the easiest way to link with me. And definitely take a listen to If These Walls Could Talk, Departures, Detours, and stay tuned for Destinations. I have some upcoming surprises on that, and some music I'm really proud of that I'm looking forward to put out. So,
all right, folks. Once again, today's guest was Mr. Darian Dean. I highly encourage you to check out this brother's music on all streaming platforms, so no excuses. R&B is not dead. You just have to go out there and search for it, and Mr. Dean is one of the artists keeping it alive. Once again,
thank you, brother.
This has been Darian Dunn with an interview with Mr. Darian Dean. As always, stay blessed, stay inspired, and to quote Maurice White, keep your head to the sky. Done out.